Football coaches talk a lot about distractions, and they want to keep distractions out of the locker room. You've always embraced distractions. You've wanted to connect your players to the larger world. Why is that? Why does that work for you? Why do you think it's good for the players?
I'm a big believer in clutter-free. You know, trying to get your mind to be clutter-free. The difference is, I think you do it through going through adversity, through talking about it, through embracing social. We live in a social society. You can't get away from it. And, you know, I always believed that, but then the Sterling thing happened, and it confirmed what I had already believed. Like, these guys know what's going on. They actually want to get involved. Most of them are scared to do it. They're worried about their brand. And, you know, I preach doing that. Hey, let's make a statement. You know, let's do something, but let's teach them that we can do it together. Let's not be a bunch of individuals that are running around making our own statement and then become part of the story. Let's learn, let's talk, let's educate. You know, I talked about my upbringing. I talked about all the racial things that had happened in my life. You know, I really brought them in to my life. And I thought it was very important for them to hear that. And look at me. I'm standing right here. I'm going nowhere. Nothing's going to bring you down. And I wanted them to see that and see the strength. And I thought that helped them. The biggest thing to teach guys is right from wrong. There's no time to it. You know, and that was the thing with the Sterling thing. It was really the wrong time for us to start making a message. Yeah. There is no right time. That, you know, and Martin Luther King always said the time is now. It really is, because if you keep waiting for the right time, you will never do it. You know, how many times, if you go back and look at history, where someone will make a statement and the opposer will say, well, this is the wrong time for that. Of course it is. You know, that tells you it's actually the right time. Team sports does celebrate teams, and the teams that win actually do that. They give in, they give themselves, they sacrifice. You know, it's a big jump from being good, you know, and then teams and individuals have to make a choice about great. Like, when you're good, that probably means you are working hard. You're working harder than most people. And then you get a lot of, like, gifts for being really good. But then there's the next step. And I think what a lot of people miss is the next step, not only individually. The whole team has to make a choice at some point. Is great worth it? Paul could have said, you know what, I wanted to stay and be the star. I want to win, but I don't want to give up any of my shots. I don't want to do anything different. And Kevin and Ray could have done the same thing. But for winning, you have to sacrifice. You know, you saw Kobe and Shaq and, you know, that Karl Malone, all those guys, they had all this talent, but they couldn't get out of their way. They wanted to win, but they wanted to win their way, you know. And I think Bill Walsh said it 100 years ago, you know, it's cooperation. If you're going to win in sports, you have to cooperate with each other. You have to cooperate with coaching. You have to accept it. And that takes a ton of sacrifice and mental toughness, where a lot of guys just can't do it. They'll do it for a little while, but right when it starts not working, they're done with it. You know, I have faced that with teams I've had. You know, in Boston, not as much, but with the Clippers, for sure. You know, I thought my first year there, I thought our guys wanted to sacrifice. And then, you know, we kind of fell apart in that Oklahoma game. And right after that, it was, well, maybe we should try this. Maybe we should do this. Maybe we should. The sacrifice wasn't there anymore. And, you know, you can win a lot of games, but you can't beat a winner. You know, and that was proof. All that did to me, though, was just made me positive of the way it's done. You know, it kind of showed me again that, you know, I had a group where they were willing, and then I had a group that were not willing. And when you're not willing to just give yourself up, you're not going to win.
Can you imagine all the pressure there was on LeBron at 18 years old? He was supposed to be the next Michael Jordan, and just everything he was going through as somebody so young.
The whole LeBron thing bothers me because he's one of the greatest of all time. Yeah. And it just looks like we keep trying to find why he's not great. Like we every day you turn on ESPN or any of these, we keep looking at why LeBron is not great instead of celebrating his greatness. And I don't understand why that is. I've never seen so many people want LeBron to fail. Like his rookie year, it's amazing how when I grew up, we celebrated our stars. Yeah. You know, we celebrated our heroes. And now we don't even let them be stars or heroes. We're looking, we're nitpicking, we're tearing them apart. He was also 19 and 20 and 21. The people who were criticizing him were 55, you know, and they were looking at it through the lens of a 55-year-old or 60-year-old or 70-year-old, where they've seen these mistakes and they've seen all the experience and they've gone through all the experiences of life. And they thought LeBron should know at 20, at 21, at 25 even, you know, that he should know how to lead a team. He should be, he should know how to talk to players when they're down. No, you don't. You learn that with life. He was a basketball savant, but he wasn't a life savant. Yeah. You know, no one is. Yeah. You become that through life. You don't just get that. That's the one thing I've always said. There's a lot of born leaders, but you're better at it the older you get because of life experiences. You don't get that as a shortcut. You can shortcut in sports because you're so great that you can be great at 19 and 20. But the leadership part, you know, look at Kobe. I mean, Kobe early in his career, and you just go by. Look at Michael. It took Michael 7 years to win an NBA title. Yeah. It's because he didn't trust. He didn't trust the system. He wanted to dominate himself. He didn't get the importance of using his teammates and using everyone else. But no one criticized Michael back then. And the difference between Michael and LeBron, when Michael came in the league, he surprised everybody how great he was. When LeBron came in the league, they expected him to be great, so it was already on him. Michael, in some ways, we allowed him to grow into greatness. We didn't allow LeBron that, and he still overachieved. LeBron is better than anyone ever thought, which is amazing. When you think, if you read it, you should go back and read the articles about LeBron coming into the NBA and then say he overachieved that, it's remarkable. He rarely gets hurt. Yeah. He always shows up. He's had some of the biggest clutch games in NBA history, yet no one knows it. Yeah. It's incredible. I think LeBron's going to be one of those guys when he retires in 10 years from now, people are going to say, man, LeBron James was one of the best players ever. Yeah. And we're going to be back saying, we were trying to tell you that 20 years ago, you're too busy telling us that he wasn't. But he is.
When I watched Dallas defending LeBron in the 2011 NBA Finals, it looked a lot like your defense against LeBron in those years.
Yes.
Did you talk to Rick Carlisle to help him out before that Finals?
No, I did not. I mean, he obviously, what coaches do is they see what you do, you know, and we defended LeBron well, you know, for a while. You know, I will say this though, I thought LeBron early in his career was he just came out and played. Like he was just better than everybody. Where I give LeBron a ton of credit, and it's funny, Paul Pierce and I were talking about it, and Kevin at Paul's retirement, how the Cleveland LeBron was so much different than the Miami LeBron. The Cleveland LeBron, we would run plays and he would get food. We could trick him. We could do things. Sometimes his athletic ability and his instincts would figure it out anyway. The Miami LeBron was a student of the game. He was prepared. He had learned the other way you don't win. This way you win. I mean, I remember the distinct moment sitting next to Thibodeau, and we call a play, and he's calling out our actions. 21 down, they're going over here, and this is LeBron in Miami. In Cleveland, he didn't know what we were running, didn't study it. And it was amazing. It was a sad and proud moment at the same time. Sad because I was thinking, this is not good for us. Proud that I was thinking he's become a student. He's learned that, it takes more than just ability to win. And you knew it was coming. You knew he was going to start winning. I don't know if I've ever shared this, but my speech before we played Miami that year, and we clearly wasn't, we were older. We just, but we still we had him. And LeBron, I kind of took those 2 games. Was before the game, I want the guys to look down and see who's talking to each other on Miami's team. And it'll be only 3. And before each game, Bosh and Wade and LeBron would do that little shadow boxing thing. And I said, the 2 things I see there, number 1, they're not hitting each other. We have to hit them. Yeah. I said, number 2, it's only 3 of them. Where's the rest of the team? And I said, they'll never win. They won't beat us, which I was wrong, they did, but we pushed them. I said, they'll never win until there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys shadowboxing with them. And I think LeBron in that first go around, him and Wade and Bosh thought they were enough. The second time around, they used the whole team. And you saw Shane Battier and even Chalmers, who they stayed on all the time. But he was huge for them. And, they used their teammates, and they allowed their teammates to express themselves, and they were a better team because of it. I asked him, what did he learn from our group? And he says, seriousness. Like, have a lot of fun, and then know when to be serious. Preparation, practice, execution. Those are the words that he used. And then he said role playing was his last thing. He said everyone had a role. Everyone had a role. Everyone accepted their role. And it was the player's job, as much as you sold it, but you pushed on us, it was the player's job to sell the role to each other and keep them in it. So that to me is what you learn.
In the book, Kobe Bryant is referred to as the bastard. And yet, I have a feeling he's going to kind of like that. He's not going to have a problem with it. He's going to embrace it.
I mean, Kobe would absolutely love that. I had a conversation with Kobe this summer, and it was forever. I mean, we just talked and talked and talked. If I had saw Kobe in the summer of 2009, that conversation would have been 1 second, tops. Now we're sitting there talking, and I had a friend with me, and he was like, I didn't know you and Kobe were that close. And I said, we're not. We couldn't be. We couldn't be. He acknowledges your existence, and he would never disrespect you with something he said. He's just not going to give you the time of the day because he wants to beat you. Yeah. He wants to be on your level or above that level. And I've always respected that. Tiger Woods was a bastard in that way. Kobe is, Kevin Garnett is, Russell Westbrook is. You can go down the line.
Bill Russell was.
Bill Russell was when he played. And now you look at Bill and he has this great personality. But that wasn't Bill when he was playing. Yeah. And you know that. Jabbar was. Yeah. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar people still don't like because of the way he carried himself. But they all were winners. They all are. They prepare. They're tough. They drive. And that's what makes them great.
What's your take on Dirk?
Dirk changed the game. He changed it into a world game. There are a lot of guys who came before Dirk, but none of them were as good as Dirk, number one. And winning changed it all. Dirk had already opened the doors, and he already had showed all the European people, all the people from all over the world, that you can come in the NBA and you can be just as dominant as you were over there. But for years, they always thought that, well, if you come there, you're just a role player. I'm going to stay here where I'm a star. And it was the inferiority. They didn't believe that they could be a star. They looked at all these U.S. players, these American-made players, and they didn't want to go up against them. The Dream Team showed them that they couldn't win. As great as the Dream Team was, and it was great to get all this international exposure, it also fed into the belief, oh my gosh, you think about what that did. I'm great over in Europe. But then we played him in the Olympics, and Chuck Daly never called a timeout the entire Olympics. It was a show. So Dirk, instead of believing that, came over here and decided, no, I'm coming over here to dominate. Now, these European players, when they come in, they're not scared, you know. But I thought he had already showed that you can come over here and play and be well. But when he won it, it really changed the game. You know, it really opened the floodgates to not only can I dominate, I can be a champion here. I can be the best player on the best team. And that's my goal. You know, I grew up as a kid, I wanted to make the All-Star team. I wanted to make the NBA. That was my first goal. Then I wanted to make the All-Star team, and I wanted to win the World Championship. That was my goal. I prayed and said that every night. I think European players grew up very similar, but theirs was just, man, I hope to be in the NBA one day. Dirk changed the prayer. He really did. He changed it to, I want to be an all-star. I want to be a world champion. I want to be the best player in the NBA. I think what Dirk did, he changed the prayer to that instead of just wanting to be in the league.
And that is the future of the NBA, is to be a global league.
The NBA is a global league, you know. And there's a lot of guys who help. David Stern is one of them. Michael Jordan is one of them. You know, even though he's American, he was just he transcended basketball, and so he was one of them. But the guys who came from there are the real leaders, and Dirk is the captain of that team.
Isiah Thomas is one of the most controversial players from your generation, and yet I always have this impression that the players today look at him differently. They look at how far he's come rather than all the problems he's been involved in. What's your take on Isiah?
I grew up with Isiah, and there's this thing out there about him, you know. Isiah grew up, listen, Maywood is not a great area, and that's where I grew up. But when I grew up there, it wasn't a bad area at all. It's really turned, you know, for the worse. But Isiah grew up in that. 20 times worse, you know. He had to grow up tough. And, you know, he went to Indiana, won. Him and Bobby didn't have a great relationship. And so, to me, I think that started it. Like, you know, all the Bobby Knight, you know, lovers and friends and talk, you know, watch Isiah, watch, you know, it started there to me. And then he got in the NBA and he figured out how to win. But he did it in his bad boy way. You know, he used some of his Chicago beliefs, you know, and dominate and do whatever it takes, fair or unfair, you know. And, you know, people didn't like the way Detroit played, and they thought he was the leader of that, you know. I think his personality, his looks, the smile, and, you know, the laughter, he always looked, but underneath they thought he was this little guy, like, pulling the strings. He actually was. What's wrong with that? You know, he was the leader of his team. But it's funny, I've known him, I think I played against Isiah when I was 10 for the first time. I've known him all my life, and he's never done a bad thing to me, ever. He came to our park in Maywood, and you don't win in Maywood. You just don't. It doesn't happen, number one. But they beat us in a pickup game that literally was hundreds of people hanging on the fences. It was circled. All you could see is the court. It was that many people watching this pickup game. It just happened. And they won. Unfortunately for him, it wasn't me, but the group of people took offense to that they won and chased him. And they had to run into a police station and wait until the crowd dispersed. He tells a story that we won, and we still chased him, so that's different. But, you know, he's just one of those villains that he was a villain as far as a player. But that's it, you know. But I think what the NBA player sees in him is you can make it out. You can live in a drug-infested area. You can have everything go against you, like you have no money, you have nothing, and you can still make it out. And, you know, listen, his mama was the reason. His mother was tough. And, you know, in our society right now, and especially in the inner city, you need someone to help you out. If I've learned anything with all this, you know, when you read and you study, it's usually a coach, one parent, a grandmother. It's always someone. It's never done alone. And Isiah talks about that a lot. And I think it's really important for players to hear his message. I think his message should get out more. I really do. Because I watched and saw where he grew up. He had no chance to be successful in that environment. And yet he turned out to be one of the best guards to ever play in the NBA. And he's done a lot of other things business-wise. And I think he's a true testimony that with the right support around you, you can do it.
Basketball is known as the black sport in America.
Yeah.
And I've always thought there was something wrong about that because on the court, basketball is meant to be colorblind. It's a sport of equality. Same rules for everyone. It's a melting pot league. It doesn't matter which part of the world you come from. Everybody's the same. Is there something wrong with calling basketball the black sport?
You hear people say it all the time still, you know. Dan Lebertar was just joking yesterday. They did a highlight of a white guy dunking. He said the only thing that's shocking about that is a white guy dunking in the NBA.
Yeah.
You know, like,
and it doesn't happen in any other sport.
No, it really doesn't.
Even in the NFL, they got rid of the black quarterbacks sticking out.
But it happens because you can see us. In a uniform, you can't. You know, and everybody is covered. You know, there's no race in the other sports because you literally don't even. You're cheering for a helmet, a uniform.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a big difference. Yeah. And the one. You know, let's be honest, in the NFL, the one person that's visible is the quarterback, and most of them are white.
Yeah.
And they kept it that way for a long time.
You've been a strong example for me in your point of view on basketball that it is connected to the bigger world, and I think it has helped inform the story I've tried to tell with this book, and I'm just grateful for you speaking with me today. Thank you.
When people want to get deeper about the NBA, and about basketball in general, I tend to gravitate towards that because I just think this game has a great message, and this game has a million interesting stories that have to do with the game, but it also has to do with life as well. And I like when someone like you, who can actually tell the story, wants to talk about the life and the stories of the NBA instead of stats, numbers, you know. The other thing is that it's a celebrate, like we celebrate our game, you know, and by celebrating the game, we talk about the game, and I think that's important. Thanks.